Anybody?
What up, leaders? Welcome back to my channel. We're on Hatville Street this morning. We're heading towards the Demerara River at the point where you can take a ferry. Not a ferry, but in fact you used to be able to take a ferry, but a speedboat to cross the river. This is one of the colonial buildings on Hatville Street. Actually, three of them. 1, 2, 3. And this one is the National Toshal Council. That's the Amerindian Association. They're celebrating 50 years. The next one is Hughes and Stobie. This one is the law offices of Nigel Hughes. He was one of the AFC leaders at one point. So these buildings are few of the colonial buildings left on Hatville Street. As we head down to the river's edge, the Demerara River. The reason why I'm making this video as a follow-up to yesterday's video on development at the Demerara River waterfront is to point out a few important details that people are missing. Right, on the other side, that is St. Stanislaus High School. Alright, St. Stanislaus High School is on the other side, and the Parliament building's coming up. There are very few places along the riverbank that the public has access to the river, where the public has access to the river. So when the previous government decided that they were going to make a promenade along the river's edge, I was excited because it was a brilliant idea. I had seen the same idea implemented in Singapore. If you guys have visited Singapore, you know you can go down to the quays. There is seating, restaurants, dining all along the river and the waterfront in Singapore. And in the middle of the day, in the middle of a work day, it's like an oasis, right? You can leave a very busy work environment and come down to the quays and have lunch, just sitting and watching the river flow by. And that is something that I miss. Morning. Something I miss about Singapore. That's the Parliament building. See, they have some solar panels on the roof of the Parliament building. That's a brilliant idea. Morning.
Morning.
This is Sylvie's. That's a mall at the corner of it's closed now, but it's a vibrant mall a couple of years ago. Sylvie's online now. Sylvie's.com. Sylviesonline.com. It's a hardware store. This is Johnny Rockets. I think I did a video about Johnny Rockets when they opened, right? And this is the sidewalk. They are actually pretty good sidewalks in Guyana. Some places where they've been built properly and they've lasted for decades. This is one of them. As we head down to the market, the Stabroek Market, to show you one of the access points to the Demerara River. So if you visited Singapore and you went down to the quays, you can enjoy lunch by the quays, that is by the river, overlooking the river, from a number of food stalls, dining places, restaurants, and so on, right? So even if you're in the heart of the busy city of Singapore, you can go down to the quays and find an oasis of calm and a place to just sit and have a leisurely lunch. All right, this is morning. This is Water Street, the continuation of Water Street. On and that building ahead is, of course, the Stabroek Market. So when the coalition government decided that they're going to build a promenade along the water, that is the river bank, I immediately thought of Singapore. And I thought that's a brilliant idea. Now people seem to interpret what I'm saying as political. I really don't care about the politics. I'm a citizen of Guyana and I want to see the place get better, and regardless of who comes up with the idea, if it's a good idea, I'm going to call it out, and that's exactly what this one was. However, it has been abandoned for more industrial development along the water's edge, and that is in fact killing the livability of the city. In other words, the city is becoming more and more industrialized. It's more like a oil town, which means all of the oil spills, the pollution, the chemicals that are moved into and out of the oil industry from these ports eventually end up on the streets in the neighborhoods, because it's impossible to avoid contamination by these industrial zones. You know, you've actually witnessed a couple of events where trains derailed and spilled toxic chemicals into the environment in Pennsylvania and a few other places in the US. And that is in fact the risk of putting industrial development in the middle of a city, in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And so that, I think, is a bad idea. It has nothing to do with which political party came up with it. It's a bad idea to put industrial zones in the heart of a city, right? And somehow the people who are commenting on these videos are missing that important point, that regardless of the political origins of these ideas, they can be assessed to be good or bad. And that is a bad idea. The good idea would have been to develop this place, the water's edge, for access by citizens, by residents. And this is one of the few points along the Demerara River where you can actually get access to the water. Here you can come out and get a speedboat across the river. All right, this is where the speedboats line up. That's the Stabroek Market. And you can see it's actually in disrepair. So the idea to turn this entire waterfront into a promenade would have been great, brilliant, because it would cause the revitalization of all of these old buildings that have been torn down, and you'd build, you know, a promenade. So that is what I'm talking about when I say it was a missed opportunity to implement an excellent idea. Now I'm going to go down to the other access point that is over at Meadowbank. That's the only other access point where residents in Georgetown have access to the river, that is the river's edge. So, and that's about 1.5 miles from here. So I'll run down there and get back to you when I get there.